Welcome to the mythical, magical PPC Unfiltered podcast with Cory Lindholm and Michael Nadalin. How are you guys going? Well, I'm asking the crowd, how are you guys going? And now I'm going to ask Cory Lindholm, how are you going, mate?
I'm doing good, man. Things have been good. End of the year craziness and chaos, but like I mentioned before the call, that's part of what I enjoy about this is overcoming the challenges and the complexities
Yeah,
and delivering good results for everybody, myself included. So, how about you, man? How's things?
nice. Yeah, as I was saying before the call, we're really busy at the moment. A lot of new business and a lot of new opportunities. Obviously, November was hectic with e-commerce clients, and even December so far is even looking to project to have bigger months as well for a lot of clients. So the clients that we're managing in e-commerce, they're projecting to have even 20% larger revenue growth this month over last month, and last month was huge.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, I'm in the I'm in the ocean of it all. I'm not drowning. I'm swimming, but I'm more hovering, paddling. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's been good. I'm excited, but we're coming up to Christmas or holiday season, depending on your religious denomination.
Yeah.
And I just think it's good. It's a good time, as you're mentioning, to reflect on the year, the
Yeah.
things you've done, the things you haven't done, the things you want to do moving forward. And yeah, it's just things are good, mate. Things are good.
Okay. Now, I know you guys mostly work in the lead generation side of account management and maybe consulting and things like
Yeah.
that. So I'm going to surprise you with a topic because we didn't talk about it before the call, but it just
Okay.
got me thinking with your
Okay.
response. So because of that, and I mostly do on the e-commerce side. So I am curious on the lead generation side for lead generation accounts. What are some of the major maybe pivots or tactic strategies that you guys really try to implement and that you've consistently implemented, or things that are new this year that you're implementing when you're considering end of the year budgets, service offering changes, promotions, etc.?
Yeah, interesting. So, yeah, it was interesting you just mentioned that the end of the year. We find for clients that the end of the year in lead generation, regardless of the industry, actually, no, that's actually a false statement because that's a very black and white thinking. Uh, just got to consider their seasonality, their business's seasonality. So, if they're in Australia, it's hot now. If you're an aircon business, you're busy. Like they're like or like HVAC as they call it in America. Um, so the question was, how we, strategies for this time of year. Is that correct?
Yeah, pivots, tactics, strategies, things that
Yeah.
maybe you usually always do, or things that have changed this year that you're doing differently.
Yeah. So we find that like a lot of the consulting we're doing with the clients at the moment, they're asking about like Christmas break. We're just like, look, what we've noticed, the trends are in B2B and B2C, people are still looking. So you still want to be available in ads. And if anything, a lot of your competitors are pulling back ads because they're like, oh, we don't have the capacity, but no one has to have the ability to take on the calls
Mm-hmm.
or to do the work, which is fine, depending on like what the actual business is. If it's a very like service-based, timely-based business, like we don't actually have any of those. So I'm not even going to make up like a fake example. But a lot of the clients we do lead generation for in B2B space. And I'm like, look, every year we see an uptick in leads because a lot of business owners are taking breaks and they're actually having the time to take the actions on things to do themselves. Like, so
Yeah.
we work with a lot of clients who are in finance, or like, mortgage broking or like business loans. So then business owners who are trying to forward project for the year, they're like, look, we need to get ahead of our finances.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I just think it is case by case. I
Mm-hmm.
do notice that December, people need to get this like myth out of their head that just because they're going on break, that it just means that people are going to like stop magically searching for them. It's like,
Right.
no, people are still there. People are still looking. Like, if anything, they're going to be more aligned, more available than they usually would be. They'll have
Mm-hmm.
more capacity to start thinking about the things that they need to proactively do for the next 3, 6, 12 months rather than just being more in the moment, taking action. So, I that's just something I've noticed, especially this year. I think with Google Ads, I've been saying this all year long. Google Ads is not enough anymore. It's just not enough. You really need to take ownership of the landing page, the data beyond the landing page, knowing the quote numbers, knowing the sales numbers, doing data attribution, doing basic things like lead to quote to sale rate, like lead to sale rate, cost per quote, cost per sale, like what the actual keyword was. Like that's the thing that I'm noticing more and more now. And I have more time to do that deeper with clients is year on year, just in terms of like not even this season, just being really aware of beyond the ad account. Like the ad account is like it's less and less as time goes on, which is wild to say because make a lot of money from it. But it's like it's very ignorant just to think that like the business's success will live and die by the Google Ads account or the Facebook Ads account. It's a holistic package of the lead generation, which would be the traffic side, the page side, the data side, the sales side, and just all of those things and being super across it. So yeah, mate, that's that.
Okay.
What are your
Awesome.
thoughts? I saw you taking notes. Is that for yourself, or you've got some questions or thoughts of yourself
Yeah,
for
no,
your own?
I was curious because I think one of the notes that I mentioned here was just end of year budgets. Do you guys have that a lot? Because
Oh,
when I consult with Legion, it's like we have to spend this much before the end of the year.
oh,
A lot of them work in fiscal years, but some of them work in
yeah.
that sort of January to December cycle. Are you guys getting that a lot too?
Not at all. And a lot of our clients, when very rarely do our clients have that, even if they're enterprise, but it's
Hmm.
usually the end of the financial year, which is July,
Right.
June, July 30 in Australia. So it's usually
Hmm.
aligned with the financial year. The
Right.
American financial year is it March to March or is it Jan to December?
I've noticed, well, I think it's actually, I've seen it vary a little bit. I can't remember the last time I looked at that. It's been a few months, but I work on so many data projects I can't
Yeah.
exactly remember the months. But yeah, it's I couldn't name it offhand. I'd have to Google it
You
probably.
don't even
But
know what the financial year dates are in America.
no, I'm an e-commerce man.
Well, that's the thing. That's the
Yeah,
thing. It's very
I'm a fan of just in time information instead of trying to learn everything all the time.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
Even though, yeah. How do you do your taxes then? What taxes?
Oh no, my
What are
taxes
taxes?
are yeah with taxes yeah January December. I'm sole proprietor, so it's
Yeah,
same as personal for me.
yeah. Well, that's the thing. I think with e-commerce, it's clear that a lot of the times the budget is uncapped, dependent on like if you're just hitting KPIs. And I don't have any e-commerce that they're like, this is our budget. They're like, look, if you hit this, you can spend as much as you want. Lead
Hmm.
generation, in terms of like the budgets for the year, that it doesn't really fit into the calendar year. It's more the financial year. But then even coming into December, the reality is like they're just like business as usual. Because that's the advice we give anyway. Like, let's not make short term changes for like 2 weeks that you're going to be kind of off, that we've been accumulating data and strategy for such a long time. That was the same during November with Black Friday and all those sales around. I'm like, look, when we're running campaigns and for Black Friday, we'll put them in separate campaigns so you can accumulate data in there and then let that run. So when these promotions are off, your existing campaigns that have been working all year in the non-sales season, their data is not affected. And I treat the
Hmm.
same thing in lead generation where it's like, don't let 2 weeks of you being on holiday disrupt the work we've been doing for a long time. And, if you pull the budgets down a little bit, that's fine, but it's like erratic changes or like, let's change the ad copy or something. It's like, no, just keep it as is. Simple,
Yeah.
lazy, essentially, but just keep it as is. That's my philosophy, and it's working. People might be
Yeah.
like, "Nah, micromanage that stuff, be across it." I'm not that type of person anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. I tend to find if someone's a self-purported expert and they're micromanaging every little element of the account without any automation, they're probably not very good at this, or they're pretty new at it,
Yeah,
or it's just they're driven by their own personal anxieties, and they
yeah,
tend to over optimize the accounts, and they sort of just the accounts constantly going up and down because they can't let things ride. They can't let get enough data to actually analyze. So they're just making really just knee jerk decisions. And we see
yeah,
that all the time, right, Michael? We see this all the time with do it yourself business owners that are trying to learn every little thing about Google Ads. They're watching every YouTube
dude.
video from Soul8 and everybody else. And they're just constantly like, well, what about this shiny object? What about this strategy? What about
Yeah,
this tactic? They think they're progressing in their knowledge base, but they're the owner of the company or they're the chief marketing executive of the
yeah,
company. Why are you specializing so much in Google Ads as opposed to delegating that to people like you and me who are big nerds at this? This is what we do. This is
yeah.
our thing over the last decade. But anyway, that's my own tangent on that.
No,
But we
but
do see
well,
that often.
we're having a conversation here, and mate, I agree with you And I disagree with you. I agree with you because you're right. We don't need to be micromanaged. Honestly, I think it's good that a lot of business owners are micro checking their client accounts because most specialists are so bad. I had a friend that I met in Bali, and she was like, oh, she's a psychologist, and she was telling me that like she wants to do Google Ads for a business. I'm like, sweet, let me just help you. I'm like, look, I'm too expensive. You won't be able to afford me, but I am your friend. I'll help you out. So I built out an ad account for perfect keywords, like really simple, to the point, like the Michael Nadalin show. And then she's like, oh, I've hired someone off Upwork or like Fiverr to do it, and they didn't use my campaign. And then I just looked at it. It was just like, firstly, targeting the wrong countries. So, number one, that's awesome. Number two, all the keywords are in broad match. How
Of
good
course.
is that? And then number three, what was the third one?
She could have had a Google
Um,
rep to do this all for free for her.
oh, mate. It was like, and then like settings were off. And I just recognized like this guy has done, and it was on maximize conversions on a new account.
Yeah.
There's no data for it to maximize towards. And I just saw that. I'm like, I looked at it, and part of me goes, oh, maybe it will work. Because I'm like, oh, they're doing all these new things. But then I was like, no, 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 Michael, come back to your 10 years of experience, mate. This is literally doing everything that you're against, especially for a new account. And then I recognize like most people are like that. Like
Mhm.
most people are like that. Like you look at all this stuff online. I start to think now when I chat to people, I'm like, am I like some like old school or am I lazy or something? Because like all these new hot strategies they're doing, I'm like, I'm not doing that. Like I'm just doing a very clear 80-20 approach to Google Ads with like a lot of data analysis and a lot of talking to clients. But then I'm like, wait, take a step back, Michael, once again. Are you making clients a lot of money? Yes. Cool. Then that's the outcome. The outcome is not these new little things like, oh, let's test broad match and not broad match. Let's test maximize conversion. I was like, do the things that you know works for you, for most of your clients most of the time, and see if it works. If it does, get on with your life. If it doesn't, do stage two. But man, seeing a lot of these accounts now, just to go back to your point, sometimes I think it's actually good that business owners are on top of this because there are a lot of bad people out there. Just a lot
And
of just like bad work.
yeah, it just, in
And they're
my
not bad
opinion,
people, but just like
no,
bad
no,
work.
no. Yeah, it's not a personal reflection. It's
Yeah,
just it's professional, right? So my thought on that is immediately, if I hire a portfolio manager for my investment portfolio and I feel the need to micromanage that person, I shouldn't be working with that person, right? So
that's
I
it.
need to find
That's
somebody
it.
better. Yeah.
Funny you say this because we had someone reach out to us. Um, he reached out to me last year and then I gave him the price and like I told him what to do. And he's like, he just went for someone cheaper. And then he comes back to me a year later. So this was probably about 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago now. And he's like, Michael, we went with all these other people. The account's gone backwards. And this account's like, this business is probably making around $500,000 a month. So it's about a $5 million company, maybe $6 million company. And then, but the guy, like, I remember seeing it, the thing is, this was a year ago and I still remember this guy's account because he was so fucking anal about it. Like, every keyword had its own campaigns and this, like, all this stuff.
Oh God.
And it was just wild. And I told him, like, when I was first, I'm like, look, dude, the search part of this, which you're very like on top of, it's fine. It's the shopping, and the shopping's your biggest leverage, like the payment max. And then he
Yeah.
goes, and I go, why didn't you work with me last time? He's like, oh, because you didn't go deep enough with the search side that I was interested in. I'm like, dude, no. And then he was like coming back. I was like, look, man, I said to him on the call, like on the first call, the second time, like 3 weeks ago, I'm like, look, man, I don't think we're right to work together. And he just like got super offended. And he's like, why? I'm like, because like, I just think you're just too involved. Like, I can't work like that. Like, he's like, no, no, man, I'd be hands off. If you need anything, I'll let you know. I'm like, I don't believe you. Like,
Words and
that's the last.
actions.
So
Words and actions. Yeah.
yeah, it's like you've told me how you operate. You've told me how you work with your past suppliers, and now magically it's going to be different for me. Like, so I don't want that. The business I love working with is the business who it's like they're a legit business that haven't done much advertising before, and the business owner knows nothing, and they just let me make them money. I do not want to be having conversations about technical things. That's like the worst thing in my mind. The only time I want to have technical conversations is with my team discussing new strategies or fixing problems. I never want to have them with clients.
Hmm.
So that's why, like, when those people, yeah, just their clients who are like want to give all the micromanaging, I'm like, no, man. Like, that's hell for me now.
Yeah.
That's hell for me.
At the end of the day, you're a contractor or a business partner. You're not an employee, and that needs to
Yeah.
be respected in the relationship, I
Yeah.
believe. Yeah, but it's hard for
Yeah.
people to disconnect. Those two
But
things.
how do you manage that, Corey, with like when you've got clients? Like, do you have clients who are super detail oriented and you're like, bro, just like chill, or are you kind of you've trained them out of that?
We find a healthy balance because I tend to work with accounts with a lot of data, and so that means there's a lot more risk for them.
Yeah.
They're spending a lot more. I don't encourage micromanagement. I think over time, it's something. If they have any insecurities about it, they learn very quickly that I am extremely data driven, and
Yeah.
I have my own soon to be potentially licensed proprietary software to manage and automate and
Nice.
report on these accounts from a management perspective. They learn very quick, like,
Are you going to show me this, mate? Like, let's just
never, you
like,
gotta
I'm just
buy it.
helping
I'm
you,
kidding,
mate.
I'm kidding.
This is okay. Go, cut. What
I'm
is
kidding,
this
I'm
shit?
kidding, I'm kidding.
No, no, okay.
Um, so yeah, I think over time they just go like, I this guy is in his own universe of analyzing data and just anything advanced analytics, and they're like, we trust you, like, what you're
Yeah,
doing, you're giving us great results. There's no reason for us to be so hands on. Like, you're giving us so much business that we don't even have time to look up the next Google Ads hot
yeah,
tip or script, because what do we care? That's your job. That's what we pay
yeah,
you all this money for. So I think some of it is your own skill set, building that trust, either in the beginning or over time. You can do your best in the prospecting call to kind of show that off, but usually you only have so much time to do that. It's something that just, it takes, again, a lot of upfront trust, and,
yeah,
you can build case studies and things like that. But at the end of the day, a lot of people have great case studies, which was like one business that they had 5 years ago. And, and that's their entire selling proposition.
yeah,
But, I think for me, it becomes obvious to them very quickly. So it's not something that I have to field, for. And I'm also very selective. I only work with a very select group of companies because they
yeah,
get all of my attention, all of these proprietary resources. So because I'm so selective, I tend to weed out some of those people that I kind of get those feelings of, this is going to be not a good balance. It's just not going to
yeah.
be a good fit for both parties. Yeah.
Well, it's even like what we are talking about before with investment and then crypto and other things is, let's just say you go to a managed fund investor and their average return is like 20%, and that's kind of like what we are, like high end, very rare to work with, like hard to get into, like, Warren Buffett, Carl Icahn type of stuff. But then imagine if they had like their investors, if they had like investors go, yeah, Warren, but like I know you get your 20% year on year for like the last 100 years, but did you know crypto is getting like 300%? Why don't we test out some of the portfolio on crypto? Like and then you'd be like that's like with us, like we're just doing our thing that gets high returns for clients, and then people are like, how about we do this new like crazy thing that I saw on LinkedIn? Is like someone said that they had like a 25% growth in the week from it. It's like, dude, leave me alone. Like, keep your that's like very amateur. Like going for quick wins is extremely amateur. I know a lot of people think like, oh, growth hacking, but
Yeah.
growth hacking 99% of the time, 99.9% of the time just does not work. Like
Yeah.
people just always looking for quick wins, quick hacks. It's like the fundamentals was where success comes from, and people micromanaging will be like, let's do this new thing. They're the people who are probably like, take a step back and maybe analyze your business better before you're trying to like find the next hook or hack
Yeah.
in your business.
Awesome. I couldn't agree more. I love the Warren Buffett example. That's a
I know
that's
you
a
do,
good one.
mate. And you know why?
That's a
Because I
good
think
one.
it leads into our next segment, Corey,
Yes. All
which is
right.
the one you wanted to talk about.
All right, perfect. And if you guys are watching the full episode, we're going to circle back to e-commerce strategies going into December. I think it's a good way to kind of top the episode. I'll finish it off. For now, we're going to go into that next segment Michael's just referring to. So,
Nice.
I am a Bogle head. If you don't know who that is, a Jack Bogle. He was the, I believe, the founder or one of the founders of Vanguard
Vanguard, yeah.
investment brokerage. And I was just watching their annual conference, a lot of videos that just came out. And one of the presentations was on three types of investors. And I'll get to how this is relevant for PPC, but anybody that's been doing this a long time realizes that anything investment related is very, very similar to investing in advertising or
Yes.
whatever it is. Maybe not the technical stuff, of course, but the mindset, which tends to be 80-20. A lot of this, and you'll notice that in our episodes, Michael and I talk about mindset and relationships and things like that, because those tend to be a big part of retention, a part of building a strategy that's going to lead to success. It's not always what's the latest way to put this setting on this thing and then move this thing over here. I mean, often great, we want to restructure, we want to do all the tactical things right. But over many years of doing this, you're going to find it's still going to be those 80-20 things. And often it's communication, mindset, those kind of and relationships. So I wanted to talk about one of the things that was covered in one of the recent conference episodes. And it was essentially on the three types of investors. Now, this isn't everybody, of course. There's no, one size fits all for anything. But those are really interesting theories. So essentially, you're saying three types of investors. You have people that are anxious investors. So people that are, well, I'll go through the three and then I'll go through each one.
Yeah.
So anxious. I'm not the presenter of this, right? So go look at the video.
You're the expert now. You're the expert.
yes. So anxious, obsessed, and avoidant. Two of those are pretty obvious, right? Like the avoidance. So you have money to put into the market, or you avoid buying things because you're even though you have the money or whatever, you've had a history of not wanting to buy things. You've had a history of not having a lot of money, so you hold on to things. You're overly frugal, right? You're not even enjoying life anymore. You're just, it's Ebenezer Scrooge type, right? So there's the avoidant. There's the obsessed, which is a lot of PPC type of people from my experience, because we are usually very analytical, and sometimes that drives us to be overly obsessed with every little optimization and new tactic and new strategy and new script and yada yada yada, constantly on LinkedIn looking for the newest little thing we think is going to just magically make this business that nobody cares about people start caring about it, whatever it is, right? Make this terrible business great with this newest script. It's just not always going to happen. But there's the obsessed, and then there's the sort of anxious. So this is people that are a little bit half in, half out. Michael, you probably met these people. It tends to kind of blend a little bit with the obsessed, where we were just talking about in the last segment. They're checking on every little Google Ads video, and this could be a business owner, but they're just driven by anxiety. They're looking at their account every hour. How was 12 o'clock? Okay, an hour later. Okay, how was 1 o'clock? And it's just they're not realizing how toxic that is for their own mindset, and hopefully not the person they're working with, to have to deal with that type of anxiety. But the reality is, in a lot of cases, people, investors, and just humans in general, we tend to fit into these three buckets from a PPC perspective, right? So when we're managing accounts, we tend to have either business owners or account managers that sort of fit into these profiles. Again, generally speaking, not everybody is going to fall into. Some people are a little bit of everything depending on the subject. But before we get further, Michael, does this make sense so far? I'm curious where you think you might fit in or lean more than another, or maybe this is completely not you at all and you don't feel that
No. Well, the thing is, it's also I can see myself over time with the different ones. It's just depending on what time in my life and what client, because sometimes it is a feedback loop of what you're receiving, and also. But there's not really one there for people who are just like. So there was obsessed. There was anxious.
Obsessed, anxious, and avoidant. Yeah.
Anxious. I'm just going to write it down. So when I'm referring to this, anxious, obsessed, avoidant. Now, is there one for someone who's actually just like? This kind of sounds like when people have their attachment styles, which is avoidance, attached, or secure. Is there like a secure one?
That's you and
like,
me.
Yeah, but that's the thing.
That's the
Like you've just gone. Who is? Can we create a fourth one right now for just people who are like, I'm just doing what I do, I make my investments, and then I just get on with my life?
Let's put it this way. This would be, well, I think it depends on how we want to frame it, right? So we were going to look at this and say, okay, from a business owner's perspective, so client relationships, if I have an anxious client, what are methods that I can use to work with that
Nice.
person, right? Obsessed. What if the client tends to be obsessive? How do we like to handle that?
Yep.
And then avoiding. If you like that, we can go down the kind of rabbit hole of account managers as well, and say, okay, if I'm noticing these things in myself, it's totally up to you. What do I
Yeah.
want to do
No,
with
I
that?
love I love that. How about we do it based on clients? Because I think that's a lot of
Yeah.
value. Because mostly people watching this are specialists, not clients who we want to work with. Damn it. So let's go from the client, but like you're dealing with a client
Yeah,
who's is. I reckon
I
that's
like
a
that.
really good way to pitch it. So
Agreed.
let's go anxious.
All
I'll
right,
let you go first because
yeah, let me
I'll
let me
talk
do
too much,
anxious
bro.
first, man, because
I will talk too
I
much.
do get this.
I'll
Michael,
talk
you're
too
good,
much.
man. You're
Mate,
good.
I'll be speaking for the next 3 hours about this.
I know this is your ballpark for sure.
Yeah.
Man, okay, so anxious. So this is again going to be someone that very driven by their anxieties. And again, guys, we are not here to make fun of people's psychological profiles or anything like that. So please don't take it that way. I think
I
this
am,
is
though.
just
I am. Corey's
Michael.
not. Like,
Michael might
I'm
be.
not going to
I'm
let him
not.
speak on behalf of both of us. He's speaking on behalf. I will make fun. I'm joking. I'm joking.
So like I really do like literally empathize with I really do empathize with people like this because like Michael said, I think we've all sort of been through this
Mm,
ourselves and had these
mm.
feelings, and it's not like one part of our life we're completely anxious and then we're not anxious in other parts of our life. These things tend to slip through the cracks across
Yeah.
most of our lives, but when you're dealing with an anxious client, so someone that sends you daily emails, yesterday looks like things are tanking, can I get a detailed report on what do you think is going on? And um, and this is assuming this is not a major promotional time or something
Yeah.
like that. This is just something you're incurring over and over again where this client is. My first thing would be to say, if this is consistent and this is something you have tried to handle professionally, diplomatically, you've empathized, this is a recurring issue, I would strongly consider firing that client. For both their sake and yours, you need to protect your own mental state, and those clients can be absolutely exhausting and take away your ability to provide value to them as well as all of your other clients,
Mm,
because they can really drain your confidence. They can drain your time, which is, of course, we all know the most valuable asset that you have in your life, and time goes really fast. And if you're spending all this time answering these huge anxiety ridden emails, there's it's better. It's not time served managing the account, managing the
yeah.
data. Now, again, if there is a valid reason to be anxious, right? It was Black Friday yesterday and things, the account was off or whatever, right? That might be an overly extreme example, but of course you're going to send an anxious email. But if this tends to be more personality slippage into professional on the
Yeah.
professional level, and it's more a transfer of that anxiety that they generally have. This, again, I'm not a psychiatrist here, so disclaimer, but
Yeah.
it's just my own opinion that
Yeah.
they need to get control of that, and they can do strategies that are recommended for this, right? So if you are that client, you're going, I kind of feel like this is me. Write that email, write it all out. Don't send it. Just write out, get all your anxieties out there, whether it's your journaling inside of the email without anybody in the in the
Yeah.
to section, because you don't want to accidentally send that email. But that can just help, I think, sometimes to just get your thoughts out, and you're like, okay, I took the breath, I got out the frustration, but maybe I don't need to send this email, or maybe I don't need to add 100 questions in the
Yeah.
email. Like keep it more concise. Respect and value the business partner that you have on the other end of that email. They also have lots of clients, and they're also being paid to manage other people's money, for example, right? You can't be overwhelming them with every little anxiety. Understand, put it in perspective. What is the trend? Not just how did yesterday go? How things been
Mm.
going recently, long term? I think that helps to kind of quell the anxieties. Michael, I want to let you jump in because I've been going a little too long.
No, it's good, man. I think you've touched on probably about 50% of the things that we do. And we've actually got strategies around this. And it's beautiful that you've labeled them as anxious, obsessed, and avoidant, because this is actually going to help me internally create frameworks on client profiles that will allow us to have, look, if the client seems like they're this, these are our steps. Because this is what we talk about a lot internally at Market Lead is, so anxious clients. We do this from the start. It really, like, this is, I'm going to probably say this stuff in 2 minutes, but it'll probably be longer than that, knowing me. You've got to speak with conviction. You just got to like not allow them to allow, even when you're speaking to them, You got to speak in a tone of conviction. So a lot of the time, it's their anxiety is because they don't feel like they can let go and trust. The tonality of conviction will just unconsciously allow people to let go. Show expertise. Now, the ways you can show expertise is directly with their like that business. But what one thing we frame it as, and we do this all the time. Well, with our other clients who are going really well, we're doing X, Y, and Z. So you're using not a third party objection, but third party resource, like almost like going, we're doing this with other people at the moment, this strategy. Now, if it doesn't work for you, that's your business. So there's no attachment to when we say a strategy like, yeah, but what if it doesn't work? We just go, well, it's working for other clients. And that just releases that stress. And then if it doesn't work, which is like maybe a 10, 20% of the time, then we try something else that works for other clients. And that can really help the anxious client as well. Really important thing with those long emails, we do not ever respond with long emails. The rule is short emails to the point because you train clients with how you respond to them. So
Yeah.
if they write an essay and you write an essay back, you're just showing that this is normalized. You can't do that shit. You just got to keep it short emails, being like, yep, noted. This is what we're doing. We've got this thing. It's working for other clients at the moment. We'll hit you up in the next 7 days. Letting them know, bang, 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 time frame, it's all good. Also using casual language. If they're very anxious, and like they're unsure and then you're unsure and you're using very professional language, use casual language that you're like, mate, it's fine, like we see this is typical, it's working with other clients, we're doing this at the moment, it will take about 14 to 21 days of the data to accumulate, and we'll give you updates along the way. We check it every day, but we won't give you another major update for the next 14 days.
Mm.
Giving them that confidence that there's also a time frame of when they're going to hear back from you. The other thing is get on a call and just let them vent to you about what's actually happening in their business, because it's the anxiety about the ad account is usually the anxiety about the business. Speak less
Mm.
about the ad account and more about their business to understand where they're coming from. Once you get people to vent, they really start to build trust with you.
Mm.
You build more trust by letting people fucking divulge all their stuff onto you rather than you saying stuff to them. So if you spend more time, maybe 2 30-minute calls just to really ask them questions and let them vent, that level of trust goes up, so that anxiety will go down, because once you're trusted, they're like, oh, I can let go.
Can you elaborate
These
on that fine line though between letting you become their psychiatrist as opposed to their PPC account
Right.
manager or consultant?
Like that is the job. I'm saying straight up for us with our company with consulting, it's like it is 80% psychologist. It's a running
Yeah.
joke in my company, and the reality is that's business, because business is money and people's buying and actions and behaviors. The more you move away from, this is what I've noticed, the more we move away from talking about the ad accounts and talking about the business and what's happening in the business. I know
Mm.
this is very different from like that super Google Ads approach, but this is what made me go from a 6-figure earner to a 7-figure earner, was recognizing that like it's the human element. It's the human that's handing you over money. It's the human that's referring you other business. The human who will make your life easier because they trust you. I have clients who when they start, they're fucking anxious. I'm like, why did I take this on? And then a month and a half, maybe 2 months later, never hear from them.
Mm.
And these are people who I'm like, they've worked with other agencies before. And I'm like, why do I keep taking it on? But now my belief system's changed, where it's like, this is actually just the market lead experience. Like they've worked with heaps of agencies before. Most people in agencies suck. So why wouldn't they be anxious?
Yeah.
It's like if I'm dating now and I'm an awesome dude, and if this like beautiful woman's just been dating like trash bags her whole life, she comes into dating me and she's got like some anxieties around dating, and I understand her past experience, I'm like, I understand. I get it. And then you just give it a bit of leeway time. And look, if in 3 months' time they're still like this, then you get rid of it. But a lot of people just need to like have that sense of trust. Now, I
Mm.
know for you, Corey, it's like probably people get that before they even work with you because they see your content. But even when people do come, they're like, is it too good to be true? I've been like burnt
Sure.
before. But
Yeah.
then have you had many clients that at the start were like that and then have just chilled out?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been doing it long enough where you kind of see it all. And I've certainly had that where, like you said, they trust, but there's always that thing where they've done this with another agency before that seemed to be data driven and, was a disruptor and all these,
Data
fun
driven is just a
marketing
word
words.
people use.
Yeah, it's
Like
marketing
we are
language.
data driven.
Yeah,
We are
yeah,
like data, not even obsessed, because that's another word. We're like data neurodivergent. Like we're just like that's just part of our brain is just
yeah,
like data.
yeah.
Part of our brain
So
that should be there for like emotional intelligence is just for like data intelligence. Our
yeah, no,
EQ is low, but our DQ is
100%.
high.
Exactly. I love that. No, I've certainly had it. I've certainly. I feel like it's happening less and less. Probably to your point, people do see, and I tend to get that where they've seen my content and they're already coming with a certain degree of trust and
Yeah.
understanding, things like that. For me, I think my big things are the anxious clients. I know we're kind of short on time here, but anxious clients, again, that's the people with the frequent communication that we've talked about, that the kind of everything's urgent. They don't really trust you. They have trust issues. So I think the things that have helped the most, we've covered it. I just want to kind of wrap it, is you got to set clear expectations. You have got to sort of, I guess, reassure with data. It's kind of what you're saying, right? Like, just,
Yeah.
give them, be transparent in the reports, but keep the information short and sweet. Stick to the facts. Like, if they're overreacting to, again, yesterday's data and these really short-term dips and stuff,
Yeah.
just redirect them to the long-term trends, the
Yeah.
data-backed stuff, why we're making the
Yeah.
decisions we are. And I think you also touched on something that was really good. You didn't say it directly, but like preemptively providing updates, right? Anticipate the
Yeah,
concerns
dude.
that they're going to have. That's a
The
that's a
only
big
reason
one.
why people are reactive is because you're not being proactive. Like, the reason why none of our clients are psycho is because we don't give them any room to be. We set the expectations, we manage the expectations, and we get ahead of the data. So before they go, oh, how are things going? Or this is happening, we're like, we're doing this. This is what the data is showing.
Yeah.
And then we tell them, we'll give you an update in the next 14 to 21 days. So then their minds, like, if they come back, it's like, dude, we already told you we're going to come get back to you. It's all good.
Yeah. It's
And
a it's yeah, go ahead. Go
yeah,
ahead,
I
please.
was going to say the other one that really helps with anxious people is sharing with them two metrics that are really important. Number one, industry based benchmarks. Number two, internal benchmarks. So, because they might go, oh, things are going bad in the business, and they start blaming the ad account. You're like, okay, look, the industry benchmark for conversion rate or cost per lead or this in your industry is this. Your internal benchmark based on your goals or whatever is this. And you can start to measure it against that, because they might have unrealistic expectations. And you're
Mhm.
like, look, against the other clients in this industry that I've worked with, the average conversion rate is 5%. You're needing 25%.
Yep.
Where, like, and then by using benchmarks, you can set the frame and also map out the journey of going, okay, cost per click, conversion rate, cost per lead, sales rate, quote rate, whatever it is. And you can benchmark it with data. So then when they're anxious at you, you're not going, fuck, what's all this? You go against all the benchmarks and you
Yeah.
go, okay, cool. This benchmark's fine. This one's fine. This is underperforming. Cool. You tell the client, hey, our conversion rate is at 6%. Our target is 10%. The reason why it's down is because X, Y, and Z. What
Yep.
we're going to do is X, Y, and Z, and we'll let you know in the next 14 to 21 days.
Yeah.
So using benchmarks to like really like dim that fire of like client anxiety, because people don't argue with benchmarks. And then when you've got the data and you've got a benchmark, it's very illogical, comparison.
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of internal benchmarks, particularly over external benchmarks.
Yeah.
One, because external benchmarks are difficult to have, especially if they're going to be accurate, unless you're
Yeah, you
a
just make them up, bro. Come on. Let's be real.
yeah,
Let's be real. You just make
like a
that shit
niche.
up.
Unless you're a niche agency, right? Like all you do is work with
Oh,
HVAC guys, and yeah, you got benchmarks.
yeah.
But even then, it's going to be like, well, are these guys in Wisconsin and I'm in Florida? Like, there's going to be those kind of, it's very tricky to find very reliable external benchmarks, outside of government agency databases, things like that,
Mate,
unless you're just a giant agency. So
okay,
just
well, this
caution
isn't
there a
this
little bit.
isn't like empirical science. It's just using our expertise to be like, look, your industry tends to like air
Yeah,
conditioning or HVAC in summer in Australia. The
yeah.
conversion rate's probably really about 30%.
No, I
Now
like
during
that.
winter,
Yeah,
it's
I
not
think
going to be
that's good to
30%. It's
clarify.
probably going to be like 5%.
Yeah.
You just kind of know these things in general. That's it. It's
I,
just like
I
a
wanted to take the
generalized.
pressure off those guys that are watching this, kind of like, well, I don't work with 100 clients. Like, how am I going to, compare their account versus all these other guys in the same
You
industry?
work in marketing. Make shit up.
But yes, internal benchmarks 100%. And this is
Yeah.
why I talk about seasonality ad nauseum, because this is great. I mean, recency bias is a big thing, especially in marketing, inside of marketing departments and at the C levels. They have very recency bias is very prevalent, and they can get lost in the weeds of things and what happened last week, last month, whatever.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's your job to remind them to say, look, April always is terrible for us. It's always terrible for us. We cannot go into April being shocked that things are not great and the conversion rates dropped or the competition rose and we don't have the inventory, right? We have to go into it with some of those internal benchmarks, and
Yeah.
it can help with these types of clients. So, Michael, just for the sake of time, I'm going to fly through the obsessed clients and then
Yeah.
the avoidant clients. Now,
Yeah.
difference between obsessed and anxious, again, they kind of bleed together, but essentially this is going to be like disruptive behavior because they are really let's say overemphasizing on micro details. So again, it's kind of like more the micromanager, but they tend to have some disruptive behavior. They have unrealistic demands. They're the perfectionists. They want immediate results. Michael, have you had these types of clients before? Is this
Yeah.
brand new?
Yeah.
Okay.
And like, you know what's crazy? I love an anxious client because I know I can reframe them. Of obsessed clients, you just can't. Like, it's
Mm,
just, they're like anxious, but the worst version of anxious because then they're like on your case about everything and they don't shut
yeah.
up. And
Yeah.
it's just too much. It's just too
It's
much. It's not even
anxious
worth it. It's
2.0.
never worth the money.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I've heard a lot of agencies that do that, right? They just if they hear that on the calls, like unrealistic, they want immediate results. That's one of their number
I was
one
just telling
red
you about that
flags they
guy
don't want to hear.
before. Yeah, my
Yeah.
example, like literally, he's
Yep.
obsessed. And it's like, dude, no way. No
Yep.
way. No way,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah. Yeah, we have, it's December. We need immediate results before January. It's like, okay, well,
But it's
you're
more
not.
like, oh yeah, like all these people online are saying this thing, like, should we try that as well? It's like,
No.
dude, I don't ever want you to tell me what other people are doing.
Yeah, they should trust that you're already looking at that stuff.
Yeah,
Or if you didn't bring it up, it's because it's not relevant
yeah,
to their account and their
yeah,
business. And that's
yeah,
reality. So strategies for these clients, if you're in that unfortunate position to be working with an obsessed client or you're hearing these things, I always like to say, like, you've got to focus on more help them redirect the focus on high impact metrics. So this is the MERS, the CACs, the NCACs, the ROAS, the the CPAs, CPLs, whatever. The big stuff, not click through rates. We don't get lost in our conversations with, looks like, CPCs went up 12% for this one ad group out of 100. Why do you think that is? And it's like,
yeah,
that doesn't probably matter, right? Conversion rates are going up. I don't know, competition is raised up. The market is going this way. Inventory is an issue. The promos didn't work. Whatever it is, there's bigger conversations to be having than getting
yeah,
lost in the weeds. But you got to prioritize and frame for these
yeah,
people. Also, in the beginning, you got to share a roadmap. If you're really feeling that this is an obsessed type of client, share the roadmap. You got to give them a very clear, if you can, like a phased plan. We talked about this in scope, scope creep, and when you're scoping for a project, you can do this with management too. Create milestones if this
mm,
is relevant with the relationship you have. Help them understand the overall strategy. It can help quell some of these obsessive tendencies that these guys
yeah,
have. Last couple things, make sure that you guys are just kind of, I noted this earlier, just diminishing returns, educate them on diminishing returns when they're expecting immediate results, lots of frequent changes in the account, understand and help them to understand that there is a point of diminishing returns where more changes isn't going to necessarily get you more results, things like that. Michael, I want to let you jump in here on obsessed clients. Is there anything else you wanted to add before we move to
yeah.
the
I think just
avoidant
use
clients?
questions. Questions the power. Just ask them like, what's the
Mm-hmm.
outcome here? Like, what do you want?
Yeah,
Oh, we were like, and then get them clear. Oh, look, I want more sales.
yeah,
Man, we're going well at the moment. Like, yeah, but I want to try out new things. Why do you want to try out new things? Because I don't want to feel like I'm left behind. And what
mm,
happen if you feel left behind? I'll miss out on sales. And it's like, well, we're hitting the results. Like a lot of, and you just tell them like, this isn't how data works and how these algorithms work anymore. It's not just like a quick fix, like you hack something together. These are algorithmically driven. It takes like, you know, at least 14 to 21 days to start getting benchmarks on data. If you were doing this stuff twice a month, to allocating budget from high spending areas that are going well to this, you're just killing yourself slowly.
yeah,
And I think I'll just come back to questions and just kind of make them realize like, oh fuck yeah, like I am being a bit more like manic here. And they usually are manic people who feel
right.
out of control.
Yeah, that's true.
So
Yeah, and I tend to find it's like they procrastinate. They're, instead of focusing on improving the business, CRO, right, the conversion rate optimization, on product development, on improving their services, their customer service, whatever it is, right, lowering the return rates. They're obsessed with these little things like the click through rate of this ad
yeah,
group or something like that. And it's like, guys, this to me just feels like you're focusing on the wrong things.
yeah,
My job is to worry about that stuff. Your
yeah,
job is whatever. improving the business overall. So yeah, this was some good insights
Cool.
there. All right,
Now, last one,
last
mate.
one.
Avoidance. I'm
Avoidant.
interested in this one.
Okay. This one's the one that I think a lot of agencies, for better or for worse, wish they had more of was avoidant clients. This is like lack of communication, delays in
Yeah.
approvals is the things you don't want. Just really an overall lack of communication. Now, it's funny, right? Because we've essentially the first two that we just talked about, that's like too much communication. It's over communication. You know, we want
Yeah.
to find a balance. This is the person on the other side. You barely ever hear from them. And that might sound great if you're a marketer and you're like, yeah, I don't want to hear from my boss, right? Like the less I hear from them, like the more autonomy that I have, the more I feel like they trust me, etc. But when it starts interrupting the progress that you're trying to make for them, that's when it's impeding that process, that
Yeah.
becomes an issue. So approvals is a big one. Like, if you need to get approvals, if you have that type of relationship, again, higher spenders, things like that. If you absolutely need to, or if you do creative, you're a creative agency, and you need to say, hey, is this image good? Does this work for us? Does this comply with brand guidelines? And they don't get back to you for a month, and the promotion's already over. Well, that's a
Yeah.
big problem, right? Also, I would say something that also fits within an avoidant client is just sort of like how do I say this? Kind of misinformation. Like they're missing information. They're not giving you as much information as would be helpful, even though you're asking the right questions. I think some clients are really avoidant because, they're doing it for a good reason. They don't want to get in your way. They trust you, the professional, to kind of figure it out. But to be honest, again, this is a relationship. We want to partner on this. Like we want
Yeah.
your business to be great. We want to grow this business, or we need to make it profitable again because of changes. Well, we need to work together. You don't want to just take all these problems, just throw them over the fence to this guy you just threw a bunch of money to.
Yeah.
That's not a good way. You want to break the walls down. You want to say, look, I am a professional at whatever, Facebook ads, Google ads, Amazon ads, whatever it is that you're doing as a marketer. You're a professional at your business. Like you're an expert at your business. Michael, you talk about this all the time, right? Like you know your business way more than I'm ever going to know it. And that's where we should be. I shouldn't know your
Yeah.
business better than you. So we need to partner together. So sometimes with avoidant clients, they're not giving you the information you need to do your job well. So before I get into strategies, Michael, I want to let you jump into this because I know you've talked about this in the past
Yeah.
and you're a good resource for this.
I love avoidant clients because they don't hit you up. Because when you've got obsessed clients or anxious clients, you're like, it's a drain. But you're right. There's definitely these ones where you're like, look, I need this data. I want to do data analysis for you, and it takes months, like 6 months. You're like, dude, like this. If you just gave it to me, I could have done this in like 24 hours.
Hmm.
And look, it's good for lag time. Like you can just. It means you can host more projects and do more work. The unfortunate thing is just like it does get in the way of actually having insights. And usually sometimes it comes from a good place where like, oh, we just trust them. Like we don't need, we
Yeah.
trust Market Lead or Michael
Yeah.
or Corey or Ads by Corey. And yeah, I think it just comes from a place of trust. But sometimes it can be a bit challenging. The only way to mitigate it, which I've noticed, short emails, and you just make it really clear.
Hmm.
Hey, X, Y, and like, hey, person, I just need this approved. Can you just write back approved?
Yeah.
And just get them to do that, because like people can do that. Like, here's an image, is it approved, yes or no? Yes, cool.
Yeah.
Like using shorter emails, because these people are probably quite busy as well, and they see
Hmm.
the email, they just don't get back. And also I think the thing is, keep following up without feeling like, am I hounding this person? Because they're paying you to be the expert.
Yeah.
And just part of that is just like, you just gently go, hey, just want to touch base on this. Just a
Yep.
simple yes or no answer. A week later, hey, just want to touch base on this. I presume you're busy. Just quickly let me know when you got 5 minutes. Or
Yep.
you get on a call with them, and then on the call, you just kind of pound it out with them and just go, look, I need this approval on this, 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 and this. What are your thoughts? And they're like, yeah, cool, cool, cool. Yep. A lot of times these people are, they've got different way, their brains operate differently. And sometimes it's the same with people with text. Like they think they answer it in their mind, but they haven't actually answered it in the message. So there hasn't been
I do that.
communication.
Yeah, I do that with
So
text. Yeah.
yeah, look, I think that's just a thing. You just got to recognize, like, look, these people are good because they won't
Yeah.
annoy you. But if you do notice that you're not getting things, just keep gently following them up, and just make the
Hmm.
email short so they don't have to be reading an essay. And with a very simple, like, yes or no or approved answer,
Yeah.
it's the fastest way around it. And don't feel
Completely
guilty about
agree.
following up, because it's like it's a reflection of them not replying, not you being annoying.
That's a good point. I think too, I want to speak to sort of the business owners that recognizes this in themselves. And again, that's okay. You're busy and things just slip through the cracks. I know it. I feel it sometimes myself. So also take the onus that if you do recognize that in yourself, you don't have to wait for the agency to set these sort of clear lines, right? To these processes. You can do it for yourself too. Just say, hey guys, I know I'm terrible about getting back to you on things, but you're trying to provide success for my business, so I want to help out and see what we can do to make this a better process. If that's a form that that you can fill out, or some kind of work it into your automation, or if you use project management systems, get it implemented within that. If your agency is okay with that, not every agency is, including myself. I don't do PMs because it becomes a nightmare because I work with so many different agencies and clients, but some will allow you to do that. But simple forms, checklists, templates, you can do it yourself. If you recognize it yourself and your agency isn't doing that, or if you're the agency owner, the marketer, account manager, whatever, do that same thing. Like Michael said, keep it short, keep it simple, set up templates, checklists, forms, whatever works for you. Make it very clear and that you're setting deadlines here. Like, help them understand that delays are going to hurt performance and deliverables, whatever overall. Making sure you're setting clear deadlines, really important. And as a part of that sort of automated process, the templates and stuff, automate the reminders. Don't kill yourself trying to just every day annoy the client with like, hey, just check it in, or see above email, or bumping this up in your inbox. Like, you don't have to be that, but just create an automated reminder. Again, they're busy. It's probably not personal. Like Michael said, they probably just didn't see it and they just need some kind of automated reminder in some cases. But don't get unprofessional. I think this is what I see a lot, right? They get really annoyed with this and they're like, I just get so tired sometimes. I just reach out and say, hey, look, if you want to continue this relationship, you're going to have to get back to us within 2 days or this isn't going to work. It's like, relax. It's like,
dude.
Relax.
Relax. As long as they're paying their bills, life's sweet.
Right. Like, I get it. And I love the passion for like wanting to bring results to the client, but it doesn't have to be unprofessional. Keep make the persistence professional, maintain that professionalism. I know it can be hard sometimes because you are passionate about what you do. And also just to add on to that, document what you do if this is appropriate for your agency, but document either in a Google sheet or something. If you have this kind of troublesome clients that are having trouble get back to you, put the deadline for something. What's the request? A place for them to respond if needed, or comments, some kind of shared document I found can be kind of helpful in these situations, just to avoid misunderstandings and have one central place and someone's not looking through the email and like typing in the name and trying to find all the emails recently and go through all those. Just having a nice, simple Google sheet can really help.
Nice. Awesome, mate. Well, mate, I've got to jump off now.
Yes, it's already time. All right, crazy. Guys, thank you so much for watching the PPC Unfiltered podcast. Michael, Nadalin, Cory Lindholm. Michael, where can people find you, sir?
Michael Nadalin on LinkedIn, marketlead.com.au, and Marketlead on YouTube. And they can find Cory as Cory Lindholm on LinkedIn, adsbycory.com, and just Cory Lindholm on Google. Just look up and you'll find the magical man everywhere.
You'll find
Very
me.
unique name.
You'll see me. All right, Michael, thanks for the call. It was a lot of fun. I think a lot of good info. And guys, I know I promised the e-com strategies. That's going to be in the next episode. I promise we'll start right away with that. All right.
Okay. See ya.